The first open hearing on UFOs in more than 50 years. What did top Pentagon officials say and not say to the American public? Plus, how does it relate to our national security? With true inflation likely much higher than the 8.3% number released by the government, how are the folks in California, one of the country's most expensive states and the largest economy in the United States, coping with rising prices? California Congresswoman Michelle Steel joins us to discuss. You might not have known that thousands of men who risked their lives during World War II were never recognized as veterans. Now Congress is rewarding medals to those Americans who risked their lives 77 years ago. We'll tell you their stories. The Buffalo shooting suspect is behind bars, and the families who lost loved ones continue to reel from this senseless act. Were the warning signs there, and how can these tragedies be prevented from happening in the future? Top Pentagon officials testified today in a rare hearing on unidentified flying objects. What are they disclosing, and why are they refusing to say more? Let's take a look.
An observation in real time. There it was.
Unveiling clips of unexplainable floating objects, top Pentagon officials testified in the first public hearing on UFOs in more than half a century.
And is this one of the phenomena that we can't explain?
I do not have an explanation for what this specific object is.
Officials confirmed that most of the observed unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, were physical objects, but they offered little confirmation on what those objects actually are, or whether aliens really exist. Yet Scott Bray, Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence, said sightings are frequent and continuing, and often occur in military training areas. When asked if U.S. aircraft have ever collided with these strange objects,
We have not had a collision. We've had at least 11 near misses, though.
the Tuesday hearing follows a government report in 2021 that recorded 144 cases of UAPs since 2004, with all but one of them unresolved. Bray said among these cases there are
a small handful in which there are flight characteristics or signature management that we can't explain with the data that we have. We'll continue. Those are obviously the ones that are of most interest to us.
Lawmakers focused more on national security, expressing concerns that some phenomena could be foreign adversaries like China and Russia deploying breakthrough technology in American airspace.
UAPs are unexplained, it's true, but they are real. They need to be investigated, and many threats they pose need to be mitigated.
Bray said China has established its own version of the UAP task force and that the U.S. is sharing findings with certain countries. This prompted a warning from lawmakers.
Be careful who we share our data with, and don't necessarily trust some of the data we may get from someone else.
Pentagon officials also noted challenges in balancing between transparency and secrecy in this open hearing, which was followed by a closed-door session.
We do not want potential adversaries to know exactly what we're able to see or understand, or how we come to the conclusions we make.
While sparing other details in the open session, Bray said the number of reported UFO encounters had grown to about 400 since last year's report, thanks to a reduced stigma around the topic.
U.S. retail sales rose in April. Consumers bought more vehicles and spent more at restaurants. But Walmart today slashed its profit outlook for the year, signaling that inflation is hurting business for even the world's largest retailers. Retail sales rose 0.9% last month. The Commerce Department said it was driven by sales of cars, electronics, and spending at restaurants. But sales at gas stations declined in April. And now prices at the pump surged to an average all-time high of $4.52 per gallon on Tuesday. Also today, the world's largest retailer sounded the inflation alarm. Walmart adjusted its profit outlook from a 3% increase to a 1% decrease this year. The company citing higher costs and supply chain woes. Walmart said shoppers' buying patterns changed because of inflation. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are also slamming President Biden for the inflation situation. Musk warned that if government continues the big spending, worse inflation might cause the U.S. to follow the path of Venezuela. Congresswoman Michelle Steel represents California's 48th congressional district. California's economy is the largest in the United States. We asked the Congresswoman how the Golden State has been coping with unprecedented inflation. We also had a chance to ask her about a recent action she's took with regard to discrimination against Asian Americans in the country's education system. Here's our interview. Congresswoman Michelle Steel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me today.
Congresswoman, many experts are saying that inflation is or could be well beyond the 8.3% that we're hearing and that we're seeing. You're starting to see some very prominent Democrats, Jeff Bezos, criticizing Biden's policies in regard to these inflation numbers that we're seeing. What do you think this means for the Democratic Party?
You know what? I think they understand that this is going to be really hurting them. And we have an election coming up in this November, and they're the one created it. So we really have to get rid of it. But you know what? 8.3% of inflation means that, you know what? It's a hidden taxes. So when you go to the market, you feel actually much higher than that. Because I know I go to the market every week. I spend $120 worth of merchandise I used to get. Now that I pay about $180, it's almost like 30-some%. So it's a really big hit for not just, you know, low income, middle income. It hurts everybody out there. And then on the top of it, you have to think about the gas price. California just hit $6 per gallon, and some places that you go, like San Francisco and Sacramento, $9 per gallon. How these people can go out and, you know, work back and forth to their family? They have to support their family, and gas prices are high, inflation's high. I mean, how are they going to survive?
Congresswoman, there seems to be an unfortunate phenomenon that we're seeing throughout the country where Asian students are being discriminated against. You recently filed an amicus brief at the Supreme Court along with Senator Ted Cruz revolving around some of these issues. Can you explain to us why you did that?
You know what? It's all race, because they try to accept the students by the race, not by the merit. And I've been seeing that. And even in California, 1996, we passed Proposition 209 to get rid of affirmative action. Actually, that came out really good because 4 years graduation rate used to be 31%. And after you got rid of affirmative action, and it went up to 55%. But these Ivy League schools or other, you know, well-known universities, and they try to cut down the, you know, students, especially Asian Americans, and they are using personality traits to try to find that they're well respected or their likability. How you can find it without interviewing these kids, just reading their essays? That's the way it was. So Harvard University, actually, their average Asian American students' acceptance rate was always 18 to 20%. I even talked to Secretary Cardona, and he agreed all these children has to be accepted by merit, not by race. So you are actually using certain criteria to accept less number of the kids because of the race. It's not acceptable. And Asians have to get more than 450 points actually on their SATs to get accepted comparing to other communities. How can that happen? Well, you know what? A lot of Asian Americans, my parents did the same thing. They came to this country. They want to make sure that you get the best education ever, so you really have to study hard. But when colleges looking at their race and too many Asians are applying it, then we have to cut it. So this is all race basis, and we've been working on that since 1990s, and that's what, you know, we have to get rid of it because everybody has to be accepted by merit. That's what we've been working on it. So it's been a long time, and Asian Americans been actually discriminated.
Congresswoman Michelle Steel, thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me today.
Hey there. I'm Steve Lance, host of NTD's Capitol Report. Just want to thank you for tuning in. To catch our full broadcast and other amazing content, watch us over at epochtv.com.